And dear audience, here we are, last panel of the evening. Can you please turn up the volume a little bit? Can you hear me in the back? Yeah? Okay, good. Gentlemen, you are very welcome to move your conversations to the benches. Now I get the honor to introduce my own panel, which is, I should have asked actually Turab to introduce me.
So you will...
Because I introduced him 3 times today.
You have more?
I don't really know that there is much yet to say, much left to say, after everything that has been said off of the stage
he wants the same one
today.
Yes.
But we're going to try to be a little bit original and differ from what your panelists have been talking about. So there has been already a discussion of FDI. There has been a discussion of diversifying risks in financing real estate investments and everything else in between and around the topic. So what we are going to try to talk about is how to attract local investments into hospitality industry and how to help create wealth locally. So if all of you thought I was a professional host and a moderator, I'm not actually. I'm also running a business. I would like to welcome my panelists on the stage in the order of creative appearance which you prefer. Abdul Rahman, CEO Dan Company, please join me. And Nadim, are you ready with the microphone? Please join us as well. Nadim Zaman, Chief Strategy Officer, Royal Medina. And as soon as he is technologically prepared, Mohammed Al-Amir, CEO Ames, will also join us on the stage. Gentlemen, you may take a seat. I'll stand and wait for our third panelist. I think just to set the stage a little bit here, there has been a lot of numbers thrown around already regarding what's going on in the industry here with investments, with tourism development, etc. I think we're all very lucky to be here and now, honestly. I'm a relative newcomer to the region. I've been here less than 3 years, but I think it has been the most exciting move, and I've been in hospitality for 25 years, and I think this has been the most exciting 3 years of my life professionally. There is so much going on, and all of that, so much of that, more than half is going on in Saudi. Mm-hmm. So I think we can have a very, very interesting conversation as soon as we get Mohammed wired up. Okay, here he is. Please give him a round of applause. So, the statistics has it that hospitality and tourism sector in the country has contributed in 2023 over 7% of the GDP, whether it's true or not. That is a huge number. And I mean, I don't know many countries, maybe there is a handful of countries around the world that can say that. And of course, the projection is that things will continue growing. Over 100 million of tourists, another 30 in the nearest 4 or 5 years, etc. Over 1 million of new jobs created, all of the amazing initiatives. So I think with all of that impact on the economy, and actually that 7% of the GDP translates into almost $70 billion contribution in 2023. So hospitality is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the Saudi's economy. Obviously, a lot of things are fueled by the governmental investment, naturally. But do you see opportunities and gaps for the local investors, be it large or small, non-governmental bodies, and where do you see them? We can go in any order that you like. All questions really are addressed to all of you.
Go ahead.
Abdul Rahman, do you want to kick us off?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Tatiana, and thanks for my esteemed panelists here. It's very interesting topic, and I think you have started with the 2 most important facts, which is the number of visitors in 2023 have increased by 65% compared to 2022, and the total spend stands around 255 billion Saudi riyal. That by itself shows how much growth is coming in the industry and how the double-digit growth is coming for the coming few years, probably a decade or so. When you look at this big picture, the 50,000 feet altitude picture, and how this could be cascaded down at the local wealth, at the local SMEs, it creates a ripple effect, I would say. That creates opportunities for the large, big-scale companies like the PIF owned, probably myself and Nadeem, but also that creates a huge opportunity for the large private companies and also for those niche companies and the SMEs that they are looking for the niche services that they could support. So if you look at it from all perspectives, it's one collaborative, I would say, value chain of investments. The opportunities are a lot. The question is how the SMEs, they could be good enough to find the right opportunity for their own business based on their vision and the risk-return kind of matrix that they're looking for.
Thank you very much. Okay, over to you.
I think I'll probably agree, definitely agree with Rahman. And I think what the change probably has affected also the private sector approach to providing projects, hospitality, hotels, and other tourism areas, restaurants, and so on. And I think that is also another change. We haven't been, usually the private sector will do hotels, for example, and it's going to be only branded 5-star, 4-star from the normal now. Now we need a shift toward different types of products. We're looking into lifestyle hotels, we're looking into ecotourism, eco-lodges, some of the, and that is something has really provided opportunities for growth, for diversification of products and assets in any group. This is one. The second one probably is the manpower that is associated with all of this. We have now a huge number of qualified locals who have been studying in everything. It's not only tourism, it's not only hotels, but even heritage, history, and those sort of things. And I think that is also affecting also the good situation that is in the whole country. The whole society is really now showing off.
Thank you. We're just warming up, so don't go too much into detail. This is a warm-up question. More to follow, trust me.
Okay, so from my perspective, I would say I agree with my colleagues, obviously, in terms of what they've said. Look, I think the big giga projects, the mega projects, and the government funding is definitely fueling the whole sector from a hospitality perspective. But there's a lot of rippling effects on the whole value chain that being unlocked and can be unlocked through the engaging the private sector. We see a lot of things like eco-lodges coming up. We even see in some of the giga projects opportunities for people to buy into F&B, even pop-ups. The TDF have obviously done quite a lot of work on this, looking at for example, the advisory experience program where they're offering loans, so making things a lot more accessible. So I see this being a very big kind of collaborative opportunity, rippling through the kind of economy from government to private sector, the large international players, but also the local investors. This is how I see it from our perspective.
Very good. It's a bit like different strokes for different folks, right?
Absolutely.
Because obviously you're going to always have governmental entities investing into huge kind of system creating infrastructure projects. When I say infrastructure, I also mean very large-scale resorts, etc. Right? If you consider, for example, the entire Red Sea to be one huge resort, and then you're going to have smaller and larger pockets of opportunity for other people. So, based on actually just piggybacking off of that, obviously there is a wide range of opportunities for everyone. How do you see this different type of investors that may be coming in impacting the sector? Do they have differing values and sets of priorities? How they're looking at their returns? How they're looking at what's a successful and not successful for them? You all represent, a slightly different size of business, and Rural Medina being probably one of the largest there. How do you see this?
Look, I think opportunities exist at every level. Just to give a little bit of a perspective, our project is looking to add 47,000 keys to the supply in Medina over the next, I would say, 8 to 10 years. This is a huge number. This in itself unlocks huge opportunities, not just for the international operators like the Marriotts or Hiltons or IHGs of this world, but also for local investors. Our main supply is not going to be in the 5-star or 4-star area. A lot of 3-star, 2-star developments are also happening. In fact, I think 70% of the supply is in this area, which is very much aligned to the feeder markets that usually come for pilgrimage or religious tourism purposes. But we see a lot of opportunities, and even if I look right now today in Medina, for smaller players to get involved. A lot of smaller players are involved. We see the whole Kuba Boulevard, for example. A lot of pop-ups are, coming up. A lot of niche restaurants are, coming into play. Look, the returns are very different. You're sitting in a boardroom in IHG in London and making decisions on investments. I think it's a very different ballgame to being a local investor who is based in Medina. So I think it's, as you said, to use your words, different strokes for different folks. But look, I think the returns are there. The economic viability is there, and tourism is just getting started. As you said earlier, today tourism is contributing 7% to GDP. It's definitely going to be double digits and more. The 2030 targets have already been smashed. I think we were at 106 million to be precise last year, and I think possibly even 150 may be exceeded. That's my personal view.
I look at it from another perspective. I'm from a company, it's a big group, one of the biggest groups in the kingdom, very heavy in real estate. And what I have seen now, probably in the last 5-6 years, most of those real estate assets now have been shifting towards either investing or operating tourism product related type of products. And that is interesting now. If I see the portfolio of the real estate now compared to 7 years or 8 years, most of it now is really tourism. And this would never have happened if there were no direction from the vision itself, the government, the whole country is toward that sector, and offered opportunities. In a market that we work, my colleague mentioned Medina. We are in Mecca, and we have so many of hospitality products there, probably the largest. 50% of the hotel rooms inventory is in Mecca, of the whole kingdom. And there has nothing been yet provided for example, ultra-luxury type of travelers, which are a good portion of the business, and especially in the high season. Now we are exposing more to 6-star hotels, not even 5 or 5 plus, talking about 6-star as per the Ministry of Tourism regulation. So it provided a different approach to how to invest from a local investor perspective. And I think also international, that is also coming on. We now have a joint venture with international company. For the first time, they're investing in Saudi. They never thought of doing this. And I think that is also changing the culture of the investment in the tourism industry a lot.
I fully agree with what they said. We are in an era, what I call it, it's a bouquet of opportunities era. Opportunities are massive, opportunities are a lot. When you visualize the whole ecosystem of the large corporates and what opportunities they make, the big giga projects, the transformation that they are making in the market, the large corporates when they do the big ticket size projects, that by itself it creates massive opportunities. Now what's important is visualizing the whole value chain, visualizing the whole ecosystem when it comes to the SMEs. Where do you think that you could fit? The returns varies. If you do a big hotel, the returns could be within a certain range. But if you are doing a destination management company, for example, the capex could be very limited, but the margins could be higher. If you do a facility management business, if you take care of the F&B, it's not about, if you ask someone 5 years ago, 10 years ago, everybody would like to go and do a 5-star luxury hotel. But today the market is, exactly, or a Michelin restaurant. Today the market wants more authenticity. You know, people that travel for authenticity, people that travel to try something different. So we need to have a little bit more of a pragmatic approach, or the SMEs, I'm talking more specifically about the SMEs, more pragmatic approach about what really the market requires, and then you design a project that really fits for the market. Let's not forget, a lot of SMEs and companies, they fail in the first year. So 20% of the companies, they close their doors within the first year, and 50% in 5 years. Only 30% they make it after the 10th year. The difference is they had a clear vision about what they want, they had a clear vision about the product, and they foresee the market demand, and also they had a flexible business model where they could cope with the market changes. All these plays, and that could just create a platform for SMEs to go where those companies and the Giga project would go on. So again, opportunities are massive. It's about selecting the right opportunity.
There is something interesting that Mohammed said. So how much, what's the percentage of hotel stock you said that is based in Mecca and Medina? 40, right?
Sorry? Percentage?
40% of hotel rooms in the kingdom are in Mecca and Medina.
It's probably almost
And then
almost 50.
Right, and then another about 30-35 are in Riyadh.
Yep.
On the previous panel on food and beverage, we heard that about 30-35% of all of the restaurants are in Riyadh. So that brings actually my next question. Are the opportunities different? Should they be, in your opinion, different for different type of investors based on the city? For example, do holy cities require mainly governmental investment or very large institutional investment, same as Riyadh? And then we'll leave secondary and tertiary for smaller family offices, for example, or SMEs? Or do you think there should be a mixture in all three?
So a couple of perspectives on that. It's a very good question. Look, I think the country is vast, right? We have 13 provinces and regions in Saudi. They're quite different. If you look at Riyadh as a capital city, Riyadh itself is contributing 50% to the Saudi's GDP today. So very different kind of ball game. It's always going to be the center of government, the ICT sector, financial sector, very, very active. And we see some of the giga projects based here as well, the Qidiyas of this world. And that's quite different to perhaps what we look at if we contrast that with something like the eastern province, Yirgji, that's famous for oil and gas, where oil and gas kind of emerged. There are very different investment opportunities there, right? Looking at petrochemicals and so on and so forth. So sector diversification comes from regions itself. And then if you look at the western region, where we have, Makkah, Medina, Jeddah, again, very, very different, right? So the opportunities there are much more around religious tourism than perhaps we see. And in the southern region, it's again different. You have a lot of agriculture. You have, obviously, you have everything to do with the sea, coastal investments, going on there. You also have, obviously, mountains there in the likes of Abha and elsewhere. So I think every region is quite different in terms of the investments it attracts. And therefore, obviously, I think there has to be a level of differentiation based on sector and based on the regions that we're looking at.
Any thoughts?
I agree very much with my colleague here. I lost the mic. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I agree now. Your question was basically how is it different now from each?
Can you please turn up the volume? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So it's different, yes. I think the type of investor in each area is different, has been there historically, is different from area to area now, or from region to region. In Mecca and Medina, I think this has already evolved in the last 10 years. With the government initiatives, with the government support, we have seen services that were never done for the last probably decades, that are presented for different type of clientele, for different market needs, and that is very important. I think what we see now is basically we are listening and we are adapting to the market needs that we haven't seen before, and that is really different.
See, the whole country is a construction site. Whether you
Tell
want-
me about it.
Yeah.
I live in Ras Al Khaimah.
I think if you could visualize some cranes, you would find millions of them. So doing business in Mecca, Medina, or the large cities, it has its own profile, it has its own risk and return that people that you could be looking at. If you look at for tier 2 cities, there are different, I would say, strategies that have been developed by the government for those cities, different stimulus packages. If you go today to TDF, for example, Tourism Development Fund, you're looking for a loan. If you are going and doing business in Riyadh, they will treat you different than if you are going and do business in Al-Ahsa, for example. They might give you a better terms because they want to support. So the opportunities are really, really, really massive. There is no one size fits all. We can't say that the big companies should focus in Mecca and Medina, and we leave the small companies to do somewhere else, or vice versa. It's a collaborative work that requires, because the whole value chain requires, if you look at it, requires the big companies, requires the small companies, requires the startups. Wherever you go, it goes there. But again, it's about the risk and return, and how much risk that you are willing to go for, how much you as an investor, in terms of the opportunities map that you are going to go, what's your capability of doing the business, and then you decide whether you do business in Mecca, because by default it's going to give you a low return. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5%, but it's going to give you capital gain. If you are in that game of the capital gain, yeah, you are in the right place. If you're looking for a higher returns, probably you want to go somewhere else. So it goes really hand in hand. You cannot say this or that.
So there are actually a few follow-on questions and follow-on thoughts that I have from this. One is, it sounds like, this old tale where a professor takes a big glass jar, fills it with big rocks, shows it to his students and says, "Is the jar full?" They say yes. And then he throws some small pebbles into it and says, "Is the jar full now?" Because they all fall down through the big rocks. Yes. Then he puts sand into it, and the jar is full of sand and all of that. Is it full now? Yes. And then he pours water, right? So it's a little bit like that, right? Because so what government is doing in PIF, etc., is they're putting these big boulders into the glass jar, and then everything else comes on the top. So I think we are probably not even at the stage of putting smaller pebbles into this jar. Right now, we're just starting to get there. But I think the question is, in order to understand what is the sequence of things to be put into the jar, there has to be an overall vision down to the very minutiae, the small detail of the whole fabric of the tourism and hospitality sector that is required in order for it to function fully. I'm actually speaking from the bottom of my heart because I live in Ras Al Khaimah, and as you know, we are kind of recreating the emirate there as we go. And I live the pain of it every day because, for example, literally in the past year, we sat down with a local REGRA, Real Estate Regulation Authority, and we wrote the escrow law together with us, the business community. So what are your thoughts on how supportive is the current legislative framework and overall governmental strategy of attracting local businesses to invest? Or is there a lot of unclarity? Is there a dialogue? What's your view on this? Sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded intro. It's just really touched me when you started talking about it.
So a few observations. Prior to joining Ramadan, I used to work for the Ministry of Investment. So my perspective is, if you go back 3 or 4 years and look at what how the regulatory environment was then and compare it with today, it's better. Is it there yet? No. But I think we are making strides towards improving the regulatory environment. Look, with the tourism investment law came into play, I believe, last year. And now I think MISA, Ministry of Investment, along with the Ministry of Tourism, are going to be basically starting a one-stop shop to make things like licensing a lot easier, making it a lot more transparent, making it streamlined, reducing the cost. And I think the cost, is something like 20% reduction in government fees are on the cards. And this should be happening at some stage this year. These things are all going to make things more clearer, make it easier for investors to come in. Look, I'm not going to say it's going to solve everything. It's not. But it's certainly heading in the right direction. And, we're going to see more of this in the years to come. But I think it's a phased approach. There's no magic wand to wave where we can solve this. That's my kind of 2 cents on this.
Yes, myself, I dealt with MISA, and I deal with a lot of government agencies, and I think this is probably the first time in my career that I see government and government officials are really working together with the private sector and with the private sector individual to make sure that it works, and I think that spirit is really behind a real vision. Somebody's believing in it. Everybody is trying to do it, and that collaboration is basically what makes it different now. And we are in the hospitality sector for decades. We haven't seen that much of involvement of even ministers, as he said. And I've been through so many meetings, workshops with ministers, active, hard workers. God help them. And that really makes sure that what you have said, that everything, even into the details, is being taken care of, and everything and everybody is involved in it, and so many teams that are working on that, and this is really a good change, and a very better than basically just have something there on the board and just follow it. I think people are doing it right way, right and left.
I fully agree. I'll tilt my answer towards the SMEs. I think it's an equal-edged triangle between regulation, de-risking, and support on the ground. Regulation, we were just talking outside about regulation, and we were just, sharing some pains together. So regulation, yeah, we are trying to help. We are leading some regulatory changes, because our mandate as Dan also to voice back to the regulators the concern that we're hearing from the market. We are in direct talk and relationship with our partners, and that's probably when it comes to our franchise model. We are franchising to the farm owners and istiraha owners to help them to create and convert part of their asset into small hospitality. And those are very much agile, I would say, investors. They want to go and do 5 or 10 keys, investment. So they need to be de-risked. So we are, as a Dan, when we go to the agri-hospitality, we are de-risking the sector. So trailblazing, we are opening the doors for the people to come after us and do the business. When it comes to regulator, we are voicing back the concern that we hear from the market. What we do at Dan, and especially, and now I'm just talking about the SMEs, we do help them in the franchise model in terms of help them with their feasibility studies. Because we need to make sure that they know what they're talking about and they can deliver. So we help them doing feasibility studies. We help them in making sure that they understand the market. They are able to attract some investors. We provide them with technology support, booking systems. We're providing them with standard operating procedures. We're helping them with the design stage, selecting the right contractor, and then we go with them on a franchise model for like 10 years, where even after they operate, we help them with the revenue management support and channel management support, etc. So we really go with them hand in hand. We're trying to de-risk them, and as we have been mandated by the board lately, in addition to do with the franchise model, we were actually, our board said, you know what, to go further step and do management agreement with the first batch, which makes a lot of efforts on myself and the team, and I have my colleagues here, which actually we are going to operate franchise and operate on behalf of the people or have our partners, just to make sure that they deliver. So we are really walking the talk. And this is what the SMEs would like to see.
I think the only other thing that you can also do on their behalf is to go and deposit their money in their bank.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I mean,
That's the only thing I think you didn't mention that you don't do for them.
actually we do, but also we are providing them with the training, through partners. So managing a small lodge facility of like 5 or 10 kids is not difficult, but requires some basic training, and this is what we are doing, just to help them in the basic training they require, so they could operate. We're going to be there with them for like few months, just to make sure that everything is stable, and then we just back off, and then they manage where they could practice their authentic hospitality based on every region that we operate in.
So franchise is what they do. Not management and not franchise.
Yeah.
That's what they do. I'm sure you weren't calling it that, but this is what it sounds like. No, but this is perfect because, on a more serious note, because I'm pretty certain that talking about SMEs, at the moment, I think as of 2023, they were contributing 20% of GDP. And the goal by 2030 is to have them at 35% of the GDP. So you have to, that's pretty much doubling it. Right, but I'm very, very certain that, especially in the smaller provinces, a huge gap of knowledge exists between the larger folks, such as Royal Medina and others, and the local entrepreneurs on how to run a profitable and sustainable business. So if I can kick this back to you, gentlemen, and ask you, what do you think are some of the gaps that we have currently in the ecosystem to attract very small local enterprises and families into the tourism ecosystem?
That's a very good question. Look, I think recently we've seen TDF, for example, stepping in. They have this activator experience program, right? The experience program, where they are basically supporting SMEs from an accelerator point of view, and they even have accelerators at subsector level on things like F&B, even on handicrafts. They have growth mentors, and I think these are the type of initiatives that are needed by government to really unlock this sector. Obviously, at a kind of
Are these initiatives used?
Sorry?
Are these initiatives being used? Are they popular?
I think they are.
I had Naif on one of the panels this morning, but I didn't ask.
Look, these are relatively new initiatives. They're getting off the ground. But if they are really activated, they're going to be very powerful. My understanding is also they are funding up to 70% of the project value. No guarantor required. The loan values are between 10,000 riyals and 1 million. So these are really targeting kind of micro and small SMEs. And these are the type of unlocks that are really required to get the sector really unlocked. I don't see any other sector, right now in the kingdom that's doing this kind of stuff to really unlock and contributing at this level to GDP. Like we've seen, the growth we've seen in this sector is unprecedented. And look, a lot more needs to be done. Definitely, don't get me wrong. And this needs to, Munshaat obviously are playing a role at kind of country level in terms of kind of unlocking the SME piece, but at sector level, I think this is probably the best example I see from certainly from my perspective.
Mohammed?
I just want to add to my colleague here that yes, even in Hajj and Umrah in Mecca and Medina, this has been a lot of changes, and basically on the SMEs level, and it's not only the financing or the let's say the it's providing the opportunity for such SMEs to provide some services that were not available or not present in the value chain and of the journey of Hajj and Umrah. And we have seen a lot of those initiatives. They are working very well, and it's very feasible, and nobody can do it except by encouraging those type of entities to do it. So the opportunities are there. I think it's not only about financing. I think there are still opportunities untapped in the whole tourism chain of services that really could the SMEs can work very well in that segment.
And I think there is a lot of initiatives you can do. I mean, a ton being done, right? I mean, you are pretty much acting like an incubator, an angel investor, and an operating company at the same time. TDF is somewhat similar, actually, right? I mean, there are a bunch of other things you can do. Potentially, you can mandate certain size local businesses to have a minimum amount, a minimum percentage of their suppliers as SMEs. Just throwing the ideas out there, right? But I mean, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink, right? So that's why I asked the question whether these programs that are being put out there are being utilized. If we shift gears a little bit, talking about local businesses, which I think are probably the blood of the industry, kind of medium to large size family offices. I think these guys are, as they're sitting in the middle between the large governmental entities and small and medium enterprises, in my opinion, they're carrying the highest risk because they've been creating these businesses for 50, 60, 100 years and investing into real estate, hospitality real estate, etc. It's historically hotels were considered sort of a conservative investment, but in the current world, I mean, what did we only not have in the past 4 years in the world, right? Tourism can take a hit. So what are some of your thoughts on how to make businesses sustainable in terms of time? How to build that longevity into the business? I don't want to make sustainability about the eco-friendly yet, quite. If we have time, we can talk about that. But how do you build financial models, and how do you ensure that once invested, the business is de-risked from the standpoint of the future proving?
If I may jump in here. So they are facing challenges when it comes to internal challenges, investors. So they have to understand what they want. If they really understand what they want, what kind of business, what risk profile, capabilities, etc. So, and that would maximize their chances to have the financial sustainability. So of course, whatever they do, that it has to be economically sustainable and environmentally sustainable. What we do at Dan, and what we actually even help our partners to do, when we go to a market, always we try to touch on 3 main elements. First of all, it has the context. So we need to make sure that whatever we're doing is coming from the local context of that local community, of that local culture, based on their authenticity. And also, we're talking about engagement with the local authorities to understand what are the pain points of the local authorities. So whenever the SME comes, they really could tap on the local authority, engagement issues, and also whatever the design comes from the local context. And the last thing is the partnerships. When we designed our project in Al-Ahsa, we actually went and we said, okay, we need to find someone who holds a PhD, an architect that comes from Al-Ahsa, who actually come and review our design, just to make sure that whatever we do is in full compliant with the local culture. And this is what we are trying to do whenever we go and we replicate across the other regions. Tapping on these 3 elements would maximize your chances of the sustainability, and also would give you a lot how you could give back to community, the carbon footprint, and the local content when it comes to the sustainable material. With the challenges, understanding what you want and tapping on these things, that would maximize your chances of the economic sustainability. You could compete and you could grow as a company, and that goes on for the SMEs as well.
Thank you. So a lot of smart prep and kind of building ecosystem around them and building them into the ecosystem to make sure that they're tied to many different other ends in the community.
Yeah, the biggest problem that a lot of companies they try to design something off-site, and then they just push it to that market. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I know you really wanted to not to have to hold the microphone.
I think yes, and I think I agree with Abdurrahman, and I just give you another perspective of this also, and how can we maintain our heritage, for example, and make it more sustainable. We have been doing a trial in restoring palaces in some of our mountain areas, abandoned most of them, rehabilitate them, and bring it to the market. We couldn't have done that before if we don't have a vision towards opening the country for the whole world. And I think that relates to the first question that you asked. So the type of clientele that we have now, the type of the market is providing is really open. we have to match this. And there has been a big gap between what we are offering and what the world is offering. And I think we're catching up to that. And one of them basically is making sure that the business is sustainable. The ecotourism has gone through a lot of things, and now my colleague also has explained this, and they are doing a fantastic job in doing that. So the awareness of keeping the business, I would say, healthy, sustainable, it's not only a market need, it's something that the whole organization of the tourism hospitality spectrum is really promoting. And this is good for the country. I think that's something.
Absolutely. Nadeem?
Okay, so I agree with my colleagues. Look, sustainability is increasingly becoming more important. I think the visitors coming in also demand that, right? They don't want to necessarily stay in another Four Seasons or another kind of Marriott, because they all look the same if you're in London or in Riyadh or you're in San Francisco. So they want that experience, and that involves getting the communities involved. It ensures that the designs that are used in construction are reflective of the local culture. So, for example, some of the designs that we're developing in our buildings follow the kind of what they call the Mashrabiya style of building. The color palette also has to fit with the traditional kind of Medina way of working. So look, all of these things are really integral to making this sustainable. And obviously from a people perspective, we want to make sure, from a rural Medina perspective, we will hire approximately directly 100,000 people be working as an end game on this project, serving the communities coming for Umrah primarily. And we want to make sure that, as my colleagues were saying, it really does tie into the DNA, the fabric of society in a very structured way. It's not just about, did we make a 10% return? It's all about, can we make this an integral part of sustaining and building the future of the city as well?
Yeah, you kind of spin my question around and you still talked about ESG, not about business sustainability, but that's okay. I think the audience is starting to hate us a little bit because we've been going on for too long. So I want to wrap up. I'm going to ask you one rapid-fire question to which you did not prepare. I'm sorry. It's not going to be very difficult. So without thinking too much, tell me, if you could invest in one offbeat hospitality experience or concept in the kingdom to attract more local and international visitors and to wow them, what would it be? Think along completely out-of-the-box lines. I don't know, stargazing resorts with telescopes, underwater hotels, anything, or even something even more unexpected.
So I can share a story from yesterday. So yesterday I attended an event which was hospitality focused. It was focused on space tourism in the kingdom. So that's quite interesting. If I was to do it personally, it would be something very unique and a unique location with a unique concept, maybe in the mountains or something like that. That's I stayed in a place in the summer when I was in Asir, and it was like nothing else. The cliffs coming off, you could see the Habala, the old style of villages there. It was absolutely breathtaking. So I would personally, if I was putting money in it, do something like that.
Spaceship on the edge of the cliff? Okay, gentlemen, any other ideas?
It's a surprise. I need to think about it. I need to think about it. But I think it has something to do with cross-culture thing. Cross-culture. So something about the whole world coming into Saudi, something, and I don't have an idea yet, but this is something that really somehow encourage me in really thinking about and doing something in tourism in Saudi Arabia. I think we have a lot of opportunities. Dreams can come true here, and that's something that we could follow.
Okay. See, last but not least.
We are digitally connected, socially disconnected. When it comes to, in my perspective,
You're going to make everybody farm dates?
yeah, exactly, something like this. So what I would really push for people to do things with their hands, where you connect to nature. Go farm to table, go and pick your fruit or vegetables, go and cut them, make your salad. create that kind of experience. Just go, take people back to nature, away from. I enjoy my time on the flight when there is no internet. You know, I enjoy my time, you know, because I'm away for like few hours from people. I do the things I love. I just want people just to go back to nature, connect with nature, do farm to table, touch the animals, just go and see the inspiration that you come from, you know, from the land. And we have a lot of this. We have the kind of diversity that we're looking for.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Please give this amazing trio a round of applause.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have time for questions. This says we have 2 more minutes, and if audience has any questions to us. Okay.
Please, still 2 minutes, 50 seconds.
Yes, we have a PPP question, public-private partnership. I know what the question is.
Yeah, with the current slew of projects going on, yeah, there are some slated for PPP, but I think, Mr. Abdul Rahman, what you're talking about is small-scale PPP, which has yet to see the light of the day in the kingdom. So where do you see in this whole, in the next maybe 1 to 3 years, what kind of projects, even to the rest of the panel, where you look at public-private partnership projects coming out, maybe by Rural Medina or AIMS being part of it?
Okay, I'll kick off and then, you know, gentlemen. See, when it comes to PPP, it's a different model that comes for like 20 years with a certain probably offtake, etc. So it's a different ball game. However, if you look at where the giga projects are going, they require facility when it comes to staff accommodation, you know, labor camps, where it gives you that kind of PPP. When it comes to our mandate, probably as a hospitality, we might not give you that one because of the smaller scale, but when you look at it as a chain, then that could give you the scale that you're looking for. But again, you need to understand the value chain and the whole ecosystem, and where you know, if you are good in building labor camps, then you probably need to trace where NEOM is going, where Dir'iyah is going. If you are in the PPP business of the FMB, then you probably need to follow us as, you know, as a Dan, and maybe, you know, Rural Medina. They would be great when it comes to labor camps, etc. Not Rural Medina directly, but, you know, Rural Medina and the other people who will be doing business in Medina, they require that kind of good level of accommodation. I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm happy to discuss further.
So maybe a perspective from a Rural Medina point of view. So we're looking at PPP opportunities right now in certain areas, especially when it comes to shared services. Things like central laundry or automatic waste collection systems, because these are obviously super blocks, right, that are being kind of built, huge amounts, and these central services will be required. And that funding we envisage will not just come from government or come from PIF, but will come from the private sector as well. So we see PPP being an integral part of the project. And I've given you 2 examples of where we're currently exploring opportunities in this area.
Thank you. One more question, and I think we're going to wrap up. Let's do this last one.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aya Faraj. I'm a projects director with the Hukay Group. I actually have 2 questions. One is out of curiosity, and the other one is about business. So the one out of curiosity, I went to Abha 2 weeks ago, and it is an amazing country. As Mr. Abdurrahman said, I interacted with the nature so deeply, I forgot about my phone, my computer, and everything. But the unfortunate thing that was in Abha is the lack of hotels that I can also enjoy my night in peacefully. This is the first question. Why don't we go to Abha and start doing great things over there? The second question is, of course, as I said, I'm from Al-Hukay Group, and as you know, we are a well-known local brand of hotels, that we have lots of hotels. When you talked about local businesses, how can we develop the partnership?
Sorry?
Wasn't very clear, right?
Sorry, it was very hard to hear you. Can you please repeat your last part of the question?
How we get partnerships with Dan, you mean? Or?
Partnerships with whom?
Yeah.
Okay. If I get you correct, how a partnership with Dan, you are most welcome to visit our website and to register as a partner. where actually we give you the chance to register as a partner in terms of, farm owner, and then that will go through. And I have here my colleague Mohammed Mulghalani, the Chief of Franchise Assets Officer, who it's going to go to my colleague Mohammed, and he will do the process. If it's more about someone who's like an architect, for example, F&B, that's going to go to another area, which, I have my colleague Ahmed Al-Abbasi, who's just sitting here, our Chief Strategy and Investment, who could take that forward. So it depends on the type of the partner, but you could easily either with us here or through our website.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're going to take a couple minutes break, and then we have hospitality awards happening.
Thank you.